So will Clinton's defense change anything for her critics? Joining me now is Republican Congressman Jason Chaffetz of Utah, who serves on one of the committees investigating the events in Benghazi. Congressman, thanks for joining us. You've been a very outspoken critic of Hillary Clinton and the White House on this issue, on Benghazi. She is clearly coming out swinging in this chapter. She says that what happened in Benghazi has been used as a political tool, and she writes that minimizes the sacrifice of those who lost their lives. What's your response?
No, we're not trying to minimize the sacrifice at all. In fact, we're trying to highlight the fact that these 4 people were killed. We got to learn from that to make sure that it never, ever happens again. If you want to talk about politics, there's a reason why on a Friday afternoon they released this. The only reason we're talking about Benghazi today is because politically she wants to try to spin it her way and put it behind her so she can get on to bigger and better things.
She seems to suggest in this chapter that she might fight an appearance before the House Select Committee on Benghazi, this new committee. She says, quote, "Those who insist on politicizing the tragedy will have to do so without me." Now, earlier today, Darrell Issa released a statement saying that he has released Secretary of State John Kerry from his request to testify before the Oversight Committee next month. It's a different committee, of course. But what if neither of them ends up testifying? Do you think that would impact the credibility of these investigations?
Well, look, she also says in the book, as new information becomes available, that she's going to go ahead and release it. If we want to get to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, you're going to have to hear from the Secretary of State. The Accountability Review Board, which was appointed by her, never even interviewed her along the way. We have not heard her with the full array of evidence be able to answer the questions. Trey Gowdy and that committee there, the Select Committee, will get at that in due time. But I would suspect that in order to get to the whole truth, that you're going to have to hear from the Secretary herself.
What do you want to know from her? What has she not answered?
Well, let me give you, for instance, the facility in Benghazi, most people don't realize this. It was attacked on April 6, 2012. It was attacked again on June 6, 2012. What did you do, Madam Secretary, to help secure that facility? Name another place in the world where we've actually had the wall breached. And then what did you do about it? Because we heard testimony that the number of American security personnel from 30 down to 9. And yet that created this death trap that was Benghazi. What did she do about that? Where was she the night of the attack? What exactly did she do? We had Marines that were going to come in as a fast team and go in to secure the embassy in Tripoli. But they were ordered to get out of their military clothes because evidently the State Department told them to do this. Don't wear your military uniforms, wear your jeans and T-shirts. That slowed down their ability to get in. What was her role in that? And then how in the world did she come up with this idea that there was some sort of video that for weeks she relied on this story that it was a video that prompted this? That never, ever happened. It just didn't happen. It was false then. It's false now. And why did she perpetuate that for weeks?
Well, we know that the video was behind a lot of protests in other parts of the world, like Tunis and Cairo. But I take your point. I do want to ask about, pardon me, 2 things she writes in these excerpts. One is she says that the reason that her name appears on some of these requests for security and other things is not because they landed on her desk, but because of a quirk in the bureaucracy. I'm paraphrasing, but I do believe she used the word quirk. What's your response to that?
Well, it's Libya. It's 9/11. It's after a revolution. She testified 4 months after the attack that she didn't make these decisions. The people on the ground made these decisions. But when we heard from the regional security officer, Eric Nordstrom, and Colonel Wood about the request that they made to have security, and they said, we didn't get to make these decisions, where did the whole thing break down? And you can see where we better learn the answer to that question, because we got hundreds of embassies and consulates out there. For her to come 4 months after the attack and say, well, I wasn't involved in any of that, how convenient of her. But where is her responsibility in this? Remember, that facility was attacked twice before. To claim ignorance and non-participation doesn't give us a whole lot of assurance either. Who is making these decisions? Not a single person was ever fired or released in relation to Benghazi. In fact, they testified that the security profile was exactly the way that they wanted it. That's just not acceptable when you got 4 people that were killed and they had 2 terrorist attacks before every other Western flag had left. including the British who had an assassination attempt. How is it, Madam Secretary, that you allow this to continue?
I believe that some individuals at the State Department were somewhat demoted because of Benghazi, but you're correct that no one was fired. Congressman Jason.
No. Show me. No.
Well, the Secretary of State.
They were not.
The Secretary of State.
No.
All right, to be continued. Congressman Jason Chaffetz, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. And in related Clinton news.